How are you guys? Welcome back to Wargaming China, my free channel where I platform my understandings of the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression from 1931 to 1945. And I do this mainly for wargamers and toy soldier enthusiasts, anyone who likes a bit of obscure history. And of course I have a beautiful collection of models and toy soldiers and armies that I use to refight the battles of this war with, and join me as I do it. I don't have a production timetable, so subscribe if you don't want to miss anything. So what are we looking at here today? Well, we're looking at here today the opening moves of the Battle of Jiujiang from early August until late October, mid-October 1938, and we're in Jiangxi province, and we're with Lieutenant General Matsuura's 106th Division of the 11th Army as they advance after securing Jiujiang, as they advance south to occupy Da'an on the Nanchang-Jiujiang Railroad. And Yuichi Nakamura, the commander of the 11th Army, wants to secure Da'an, as he knows that's a major supply base for the Chinese Army, as well as transport hub. And if he takes Da'an, he will secure his left flank as he drives on to Wuhan. So we're on the southern bank of the Yangtze River in Jiangxi province, early August 1938. Now, when it came to this battle, the Battle of Jiujiang, I found that, because a lot of the stuff I look at is at university libraries, and I found that it wasn't a great, it didn't have the wealth of literature. I mean, there's not usually wealth of literature or anything on this war, but it didn't have the amount of literature associated with it that I thought it would. Not at an academic level anyway. And then I realized when I started to look deeper into it that there are so many contradictions about this battle. So many things that the historians cannot agree on. Let's run through a few things. So if we look at the Japanese army heading, the elements of the Japanese army heading south on Da'an, and which will be involved in the Battle of Jiujiang, we will say that it's the 106th Division of 22,000 men, an all-square type division. Well, not an all-square type division, it was only raised in the previous year. Well, that year it was only raised in 1938, the 106th Division. And then the 101st Division of 25,000 men. So that would give us 47,000 Japanese troops. But that's not quite right, because it's not all of the 101st Division, it's a brigade. So let's say 5,000, 27,000. Then elements of the 27th Division. So I reckon Japanese forces for the Battle of Jiujiang were about 30,000. Now, we can all agree on what Japanese formations they were, but when we look at the Chinese order of battle, it is not as clear. Now, many of the accounts I looked at differed with each other on what units were involved on the Chinese side. But luckily, when I started to go through the armies individually and the divisions individually, I felt pretty confident that what I'm about to tell you is correct. Okay, so the commanders of the Chinese forces defending Jiujiang, Zhe Yue and Wu Quan. Now, commander, that's the supreme commander. Commander of this battle would be Tang Enbo. Now, if we look at the Chinese army, of 100,000 troops. We've got the 4th Army, which consists of the 90th and the 59th Division. Now, the 90th Division is an interesting division because she's the old Iron Army, and we'll get into that when we have a scenario involving her. Then we've got the 74th Army, and that consists of the 51st and 58th Divisions. Now, they are considered by Chinese historians and academics to be elite because they're very battle-hardened, and although they aren't even semi-Germanized, they are well equipped. Then we have the 69th Army, and now the 66th Army is a very interesting army. It's one of the Guangdong provincial original armies that have been sent to support the government. But because these divisions, the 66th Army ends up in government control for so long, it quickly becomes literally a government army. And the 66th Army is the 159th and 160th Divisions from Guangdong. And they're formed into 2 brigades. Each division is 2 brigades. And the 159th is the 475th and the 477th. And each brigade consists of 3 regiments of infantry. So for a Guangdong brigade, infantry brigade, that's 3 regiments of infantry and 6 regiments, 3 regiments of infantry to a brigade, 2 brigades to a division. So a very large formation. Then we get to the 187th Division, which is this is one of the divisions that seemed to be some speculation if it was there or not. But it seems that it was transferred from the 64th Army under its General Peng. So yeah, I believe that the 187th was there. The 91st Division was definitely there. Too many accounts of its fighting for it not to have been there. And it was under Lieutenant General Feng. The 91st, then there's the new armies, which is the 30th Army Group, which consisted of the new 14th, new 13th, new 13th, new 15th, and the 142nd Divisions. Then the 60th Division, the Reserve 6th Division, and the 19th Division. So that is such a wide variety of Chinese troops that I felt in doing this battle to field forces from 3 different formations. Now, when we look at the Japanese Matsura's advance on Sha-he, there's 1 or 2 things we've got to remember about the 106th Division. It's a new division, and its men are mainly made up of reservists. So they're men in their mid-30s up to 40 years old. They're not physically fit troops, and although they have been back in the colours about 6 months already, they don't seem to have achieved the stature of their fellow combat divisions. This might be because it took them 5 days of heavy fighting to take Jiujiang, and at the end that city fell because of a Japanese Kikan operation. And a Kikan operation is something I'll go into in the future. But needless to say, they're kind of like Japan's Brandon burgers. So as I said, so having captured Jiujiang, the Japanese pushed south to Dan. Now, what will follow it here at Sha-he, we're looking at the town of Sha-he on the Nanchang Jiujiang Railroad, is a week of heavy fighting for the 106th Division. A week of very heavy fighting and lots of heavy casualties. And the reason for that is because the Chinese are in good defensive positions. They're well camouflaged. But there are a few more factors involved too. This region is famous for its fog, low-lying cloud, mist and rain. And it's August 1938, it is raining. And look, I haven't actually seen the battle report for the day, but the wet season of 1938 was one of the longest and wettest on records. So it's a fairly good chance that the all these weather factors interfered with air support and communications. Now another thing that we have to factor in. Now Matsura, as he advanced up the railway and road towards Sha-he and faced this formidable Chinese opposition, he broke through Sha-he after 7 days. But then him and Okumura, the commander of the 11th Army, of which the 106th Division was part, decided that they would try a right hook through the Jiujiang mountains to come upon Da'an from the rear. Now, Jiujiang is a mountainous area about 450 square kilometers, and it consists of 5 mountains, which is Mount Dajin, Mount Xiaojin, Mount Bindan, Mount Jiang, and Mount Jianggu, as well as smaller foothills around them, which are gullies, and in the middle seems to be a bowl. And as Matsura heads into the Jiujiang mountains, he found that his maps were wrong and his communication equipment and his compasses were failing. And why that is because the wet weather combined with the high iron content of the mountains was affecting his radio equipment and his compasses. The magnetic force of the mountains, apparently it can't be understated. So as he was heading into into Sha-he, as he was taking Sha-he, these anomalies were already starting to make themselves known to him. But as I said, then he would take Sha-he and press, and then maneuver to do a right hook and take Jiujiang. Now in Jiujiang itself, there are about 100,000 Chinese troops in this area, and as I said, it's quite contradictory when we look at the maps of battle, what Chinese forces were there. But as I said, I'd like you to know that as I studied each mountain and the fighting around it, I was able to identify a lot of divisions. So, you know, I was able. It's very hard to obviously differ or bicker with, you know, published historians or people who publish work, but I can only give you my own interpretation, you know, my own understanding. And as I said, Zhuai Yue, Wu Quan, the commanders of the Chinese forces in Jiujiang, of the 4th Army, the 74th Army, the 64th Army, the 187th Division, 91st Division, the new 13th, the new 15th Division, the 142nd Division, the 60th Division, the Reserve 6th Division, and the 19th Division. All up 100,000 troops. And these troops were well dug in. And as far as supplies, ammunition, artillery go, they're actually pretty well off by Chinese standards. Now, what the Chinese have done is to form one entire defensive line of 2 armies, 5 divisions, to screen Sha-he. And as Matsura, as the 106 push into Sha-he, these Chinese divisions kind of fold themselves around the Japanese advance. You know, the Japanese don't break through. Fighting will be so stiff here that here at Mount Lu Shu, a couple of days into the fighting, the elements of the 101st Division will land here in order to push through to Jingzi. But it'll be heavy fighting, and because the fighting there isn't so successful, it was one of the key decisions for Okumura to say to Matsura, okay, give him a right hook and head into Jiujiang. Now, in China, this battle is known as the victory of Jiujiang. because after the 106th Division and elements of the 101st Division, about 27,000 men, 27 to 30,000 men, enter the Wanjialing Mountains. They're immediately surrounded and cut off by superior Chinese forces. And I want you to imagine this as when you were a kid in a small clump of trees, you might hide behind the trees with your mates and stalk each other through the trees. Well, these mountains aren't that massive, and it's kind of a case of doing that. The Chinese are constantly sidestepping the Japanese and then attacking them from the rear. This style of fighting is new, and the Chinese really show a willingness to close with the Japanese at Wanjialing, that and an aggressiveness that's very unique to the battle. If we look at the 91st Division, for example, the 90th Division of the Fourth Army, the elite Fourth Army. Now, many sources quote the 90th Division on occupying its defensive positions in Wanjialing. Now, the 90th Division is a special division. It's the last of the old Northern Expedition divisions, and it's called the Iron Army. The men of the 90th Division are called the Iron Army, the Iron Soldiers, and they, to a man, the division swears to hold its ground until death and not one step back. And in the coming battle, from early August to mid-October, the 90th Division fulfills its oath. It does not surrender, it does not step back, and it is literally annihilated. Now, I want to talk about the topography and the geography of Wanjialing. If you've ever seen pictures of Cappadocia, with the mountains that are like cones and fingers of rock that, well, it's chalk in Cappadocia, but Wanjialing, the mountains are like that. They're very steep. Very steep. Not that high that you would classify them as mountains. They're all none of them are a kilometre high, 1,000 metres high, but they are indeed fingers of rock that impose themselves on the area of Wanjialing, and around which the Chinese will manoeuvre to check every movement of the Japanese. In fact, it seems like for the whole battle, the Japanese are struggling to take the initiative. It always seems that as soon as the 106 and elements of the 101st enter Wanjialing, it's them reacting to the Chinese, which, in a battle, in a battle it's important to dominate, and the Chinese certainly seem to be dominating this battle. Now, I wanted the advance of the 106 to be, I play rapid fire, so it's a regiment. I've got a regiment of Japanese, and I wanted to, as I said, I'm a solo war gamer. The majority of my games are solo. I get a couple of you with other people, but what I do as a solo war gamer, you always have to surprise yourself. So for the entry points, I put 4 dice down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would dictate where the Japanese attack from. I'm going to take this as a 12-move game, and the Chinese objective is to inflict as many casualties as possible onto the Japanese. With the artillery support the Japanese have got, the Chinese don't have that much defense against. And as you can see from here, this is another thing I've started to do for rapid fire gaming. We go around the other side, I've got to stand there. As you can see, I've got mats over the positions of the Chinese army. Now, I decided a while ago that observation movement rules in rapid fire were far too generous. So I restrict visibility with what I would call heavy camouflage, and which means that until these fire, they cannot be rolled to observe for. Obviously, I limit the number of times I could do that per side, but it does help in a game, especially when you're looking at overwhelming artillery, from the enemy. So what troops did I use? Here I've got the old 5th Army troops and Circlement Division. Whenever I use this as a standby division a lot now. Then in here, I've got what have I got? Elements of they're supposed to be the 74th Regiment, 74th Division or Army. And then over there I've got Guangdong forces. As I think I said it, Guangdong, 3 regiments per brigade, 2 brigades to a division, and the 66th Army of Guangdong consists of 2 divisions. As I've said before, with Guangdong by this time, you can, although they might be organised differently and equipped differently, they are more or less regular government troops. That's the way it went with the warlords. It's a subject I'll constantly be going back to, because there are just so many stories and examples of how the warlords fell from favour and lost their power, or in some cases didn't lose their power. All for future episodes, so I don't have a production timetable, so you should subscribe if you don't want to miss anything. What else about this battle? So I talked about the weather hampering air support. I talked about the iron content of the rocks hampering radios, equipment, and compasses. I talked about the bad maps. I talked about how confusing the geography is in Jiujiang. Talked about the 106th Division, and so victory at Jiujiang. I'll be coming back to this battle. Hopefully I'm going to throw a few dice today and finish this game, and then I'll do a post-game epilogue. And as I said before, another video, we're going to be looking at quite a few battles of the Jiujiang this year, and it'll take some terrain building, because the mountains themselves are pretty special. I can't just do boxes for them, so I'll have to make something. So after this drive on Sha-he game, it might be a while before we get back to Jiujiang. There's a bit of building to do. So as I said, make sure you subscribe, because I don't have a production schedule. Alright. Thanks for listening. See ya.